Guys, it's that time of the week again, back for our championship score predictions. Let's go. Welcome back to another video on the channel, guys. We've got 11 championship games to go ahead and predict in today's video. We've also got an FA Cup tie as well, which we'll throw in there. That won't count towards the prediction league, but as Bournemouth are still in the FA Cup, I thought we'd include that prediction as well. As always, do get your score predictions in the comments down below and get yourself entered onto the prediction league. It's really hotting up around there at the moment. If we take a look to the side of me at the current standings of the main prediction league, it is still Championship Pro who sits top, but it is very congested around the top of the table at the moment. Only a few points separating you guys who are currently battling it out for that title. In League 1, this is how the standings are currently looking. I had a fairly decent game week. I got 7 points for the midweek scorelines. I'm currently sat 10th in League 1. And then this is how the League 2 prediction league is currently looking. So it'll take you 109 points to go ahead and break into that League 2 league at the moment. But without any further ado, let's hop into this one. So let's start out with Saturday's early kickoff. It's quite the interesting one. It's Brentford going up against Forest. Now, Brentford involved in quite the dramatic 2-2 draw with Derby in midweek. At half-time, they looked like they were in complete cruise control of that game. It was all Brentford traffic going forward. They obviously got the early Ivan Toney penalty. Sergi Canos added to their lead, 2-0 going into half-time. But there was a complete reversal of the momentum heading into that second half. Rooney made some tactical changes, and Brentford just couldn't live with it. Ultimately, at the end of the season, those sort of games could really come back to bite Brentford, dropping 2 points there from a leading position. Watford now find themselves 5 points ahead of Brentford in the race for automatic promotion. Obviously, they still have that game in hand on them, but it's no longer in their hands to actually catch up with Watford. So games like this, they need to put things right. Forest have been a little bit unlucky recently in terms of their fixture list that they've actually had. They're without a win in their last 5 games now, but their last 3 have been up against Watford, Reading and Norwich, and now going away to Brentford. Things don't get much easier for Chris Hughton's side. These sort of games against top 6 opposition, especially away from home, typically Forest have struggled in so far this season, so they can make themselves hard to beat, but actually trying to be a bit more inventive going forward. You've got to fancy Brentford for this one, even despite their collapse in midweek. I'm going to go 2-1 Brentford in this game. Thief is going 1-0 Forest. Next up, let's go to Oakwell. We've got Barnsley going up against Sheffield Wednesday. This one's always a good battle. I remember over the years in me covering the Championship, there's been some crackers between these two. I remember back a few years ago, that Sam Winnell goal for Sheffield Wednesday when it all kicked off. Each club finds themselves in quite different circumstances, though, to where they did a few years ago. Barnsley in midweek continued on their sparkling form, having now won 9 of their last 10 championship matches. A brace from Daryl DK in that win over Wycombe. But one of the potential drawbacks and advantages to Sheffield Wednesday in this game is the suspension to Alex Mowatt. Obviously picked up a red card in that game in midweek. Maybe that will tip the midfield balance ever so slightly. At Wednesday under Darren Moore, things have ever so slightly picked up in terms of a couple of performance elements, but one thing you need to go your way while you're at the foot of the table is luck, and Wednesday don't seem to have any of that at the moment. Obviously it was the Callum Patterson own goal in the end which got Huddersfield back into this game. I think the majority of people will probably be fancying Barnsley for this one. One thing I wanted to ask Wednesday fans as well was Ravel Morrison, yes or no? Let me know down below. He's training with the club at the moment, which I found quite interesting. But for a score prediction in this one, I've got to still be back in Barnsley. I think I'm going to go 2-0 to the home side, with Thief saying between Wednesday. Next up, we then head to Ashton Gate. We've got Bristol City going up against Rotherham. Rotherham very much looked a squad that was still suffering maybe the after effects of recovering from COVID. They put a shift in that game against Watford, but ultimately I think the early goal from Serralta probably set the tone for that one. Obviously they put 4 goals past them in the end. The international break might not have come at the worst time in the world for Rotherham, just to get everyone fully fit again, you know, get them back on the training pitch. However, if you look at Rotherham's running for the rest of the season, it's going to be unbelievably congested, whereby they're going to be playing an obscene amount of games in such a short amount of time to catch up with all the games in hand they've got going on. So I'm interested to see how that sort of goes their way, if in the end that does end up playing into their advantage, having these games in hand, or it ends up hindering the squad. Bristol City midweek involved in that goalless draw against Blackburn. Bristol City may see this as a bit of an opportunity to hit back at Rotherham, with them currently not exactly being the most stable after recovering from their situation. For a score prediction, I'm going to back Bristol City for a 1-0 in this game. I think it'll be tight. Thief has gone 1-0 Rotherham. Next up, let's then go to Coventry up against Wycombe. Coventry not in the ideal situation at the moment. moment, and this game has sort of turned into a bit of a must-win for them. Just 2 wins from their last 11. In midweek, circumstances didn't quite go their way. It was a quite disappointing 2-0 loss against Luton, obviously. They had McFadzean sent off in the first half. They did appeal that red card, but that appeal has since been rejected, so he'll be missing from this game, which you feel is quite the blow for Coventry in their back line. You know, McFadzean and his sort of physicality that he does add, whoever steps into that role is going to be tested by this Wycombe side in this game. Now, with Birmingham potentially having a bit of a new manager bounce under Lee Bowyer, that has put Birmingham and Coventry on the exact same amount of points, and with Rotherham still being the sort of wild card this season in terms of having all those games in hand, this game has turned into a bit of a must-win here for Coventry, so they need to go for it. Do they get over the line? I'm just going to edge them for this one for a 2-1, but Wycombe always capable of pulling out something, aren't they? I'm going to go 2-1 Coventry, FIFA's going 2-0 Wycombe. Next up, let's then go to the den. We got Millwall going up against Middlesbrough. Millwall were involved in an absolute cracker in midweek, 3-2 loss against QPR, but I mean, for the first 45 minutes, that was potentially some of the best football that we've seen all season from Millwall, actually. It was exciting stuff, committing men moving forward. They had that 2-0 lead going into half-time, but like several other championship matches that we saw in midweek, the shift of momentum going into the second half was absolutely unbelievable. 3-2 QPR in the end. Middlesbrough were obviously in action against my side, North End. To be honest, we made it a little bit easy for them in the circumstances. We scored a horrific own goal, and then when Alan Brown got that red card, which was maybe a bit controversial given that Sam Morsey didn't follow him, Middlesbrough, yeah, had it quite easy in the second half, really. We didn't really make them work all too hard for that 3 points, but still within touching distance of the top 6. And looking at Middlesbrough's running for the end of the season, if they're still in touching distance with like 4 or 5 games to go, it is quite feasible that they could pull together a winning streak with those matches that they've got left. But for this game, I see it being a little bit more cagey. I'm going to go for a 1-1 in this one. FIFA's going to agree with me. Next up, and then to Carrow Road, we got Norwich going up against Blackburn. Blackburn just really lacking that spark about their play at the moment, aren't they? They've only won 1 of their last 11 matches now. Things really have turned sour there recently. It was a goalless draw for them in midweek against Bristol City. They had a lot of the ball in that one. I think they had over 70% possession or something like that. But what's been the general trend with Blackburn recently has been they've looked alright up until they get up to the penalty box, and then they seem to completely run out of ideas. Maybe they were lacking someone like a Bradley Dack in those sort of tight areas to craft out something, but yeah, I think most people's money on this game is going to be on Norwich, you know, with the form they're currently on and the way they're playing as well. It's unbelievable. They're a level above everyone else in the Championship. Comfortable stuff for them in midweek. 2-0 against Forest. Could have had even more goals. Timu Pukki and Kieran Dowell with the goals in that one, and I only see this one going one way, to be honest with you. For a score prediction, I'm going to go 3-1 Norwich in this game, with FIFA going 2-0 Blackburn. Next up then to Deep Dell, we got Preston going up against Luton, with the international break coming up next, and that usually being a time when clubs look to part ways with underperforming managers. You feel like Alex Neil needs a result in this game, but it's not going to be easy. Midweek, another set of circumstances which didn't go our way. It was a horrible own goal by Jordan Story, and then the Alan Brown red card to add to that. He's of course going to miss this game against Luton, who won in midweek 2-0 against Coventry. Obviously Coventry having a man sent off in that one, played into Luton's hands for the second half, but they were the team that was very much pressing forward and asking the questions. And I think back to the reverse fixture that we had against Luton earlier on in this season, they absolutely played us off the park that day. Alex Neil needs to get some sort of a reaction from this Preston side, because if he doesn't and we fall to a similar sort of limp defeat in this game, I really do fear for his future heading into this next international break. For a score prediction, I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1. I feel like we also need to get a result here because our fixtures after the international break are absolutely horrible. I think we've got games against Norwich, Swansea and Brentford back to back to back. So we need something. I'm going to go 1-1. FIFA's going 1-0 Preston. After that, let's go to Reading up against QPR. A really tough game to call because with each of these sides, it very much depends on which team turns up. I mean, if the QPR from the first half against Millwall turns up, I mean, no doubts that Reading will probably win this game. But if the QPR from the second half against Millwall shows up, God knows what's going to happen in this one. It was some turnaround in that game, but Reading themselves, a bit of a disappointment in midweek actually. To lose in the manner of which they did, obviously, against Birmingham. Looking at Reading's fixtures for the rest of the season compared to some of the other top 6 competitors, I think that Reading have got it pretty tough, so they want to get as many points on the board before this international break, and they really do hit that tough run of fixtures. This sort of game, I think is imperative for Reading, really, just to head into the international break with a bit of good momentum. Obviously, QPR themselves don't really have all too much to play for, but they themselves have been a really tricky side to call lately. They've won 3, lost 3 out of their last 6. For a score prediction, I'm going to play it safe and go for a draw in this one. I'm going to go 1-1. FIFA's gone 0-0, could go either way. After that, let's go to Stoke up against Derby, each side drawing in midweek. Stoke involved in a goalless draw against Cardiff, where, to be fair, each side had several chances in that one. First off, especially for Stoke, I'm not sure how they didn't take the lead with the calibre of opportunities they had. I think that Stephen Fletcher is going to be missing this weekend's action though, which is obviously going to be a blow for Stoke's firepower moving forward. Derby themselves involved in quite the dramatic comeback against Brentford. 2-0 down at half-time. I didn't give them much of a chance myself of getting back into that game, but fair play to Rooney with the tactical tweaks that he made. They obviously paid off in the second half. Lewis Sibley with the equaliser, lovely goal in the end, and after he was called out a bit by Wayne Rooney in terms of wanting Sibley to offer them a little bit more, he couldn't have done much more in midweek. So yeah, should be a good game. I'm expecting this one to be a fairly tight one, to be honest with you. First goal probably goes on to win it, really. Stoke have been fairly steady at home so far this season, so I think I'm just swaying towards them. I'm going to go 1-0 Stoke in this game. FIFA's going 1-1. Does feel like a bit of a first goal wins. Next up, let's then go to Watford up against Birmingham. Now for Birmingham in midweek and for Lee Bowyer, it was very much the perfect start for him. 2-1 win against Reading. Birmingham's fixture list and their upcoming games all looking pretty tough though, so obviously they're going to need that unity and that bit of a bounce that Lee Bowyer seems to have given the squad. But Watford are grinding out the results at the moment, and not just grinding them out, but actually some of the play moving forward has been a lot more fluid than we were seeing from Watford at the start of this season. It was comfortable stuff from them in midweek. They pretty much had that game against Rotherham wrapped up by half-time. Zinkernagel, I thought, had some really nice touches in that game. I think he got a couple of assists in it, but yeah, he's looked really lively from midfield, and Watford can hurt you from all sorts of different angles at the moment. Their home form continues to be by far and away the best in the Championship as well. They've only lost 2 home matches so far this season, but maybe Lee Bowyer gives Birmingham a bit more of an unknown edge coming into this game. But saying that, I still think Watford will probably get the job done here. I'm going to go 2-1 Watford in this game, with Thief saying 2-0 Birmingham. Tough test for Birmingham there. And there's our last Championship game to predict of the weekend. We've got the big one. It's the South Wales derby between Swansea and Cardiff. This game comes at a very interesting time of the season, right before the international break. Each side still having everything to play for. Swansea still going for automatic promotion. Cardiff still going for the top 6. Now, in midweek, Swansea were, I mean, it was an absolute disaster of a performance realistically, wasn't it, against Bournemouth? But to be fair, I think a lot of us had been saying that we'd seen that sort of thing coming from Swansea. You know, the underlying numbers hadn't been great. The eye test watching Swansea as they just about managed to grind out these results recently. Up against a good side like Bournemouth can be on their day. A few of us thought that they may come unstuck in that game, but to lose it 3-0 and to actually struggle defending balls coming into the box and losing headers in those areas, that's the sort of, you know, those are the sort of areas where Cardiff are going to look to thrive on. Cardiff themselves, they had a goalless draw in midweek against Stoke. They lost a little bit of ground on some of the teams above them. Second half, they had a couple of openings, but just couldn't get anything over the line. I have the feeling that this one is going to be an incredibly low-scoring game. 0-0 wouldn't surprise me. 1-0 either way, or maybe a 1-1. I wouldn't bank on more than like 3 goals being scored in this one. I think it's going to be 2 quite cagey managers, not wanting to give all too much away to the opposition. But in recent years, it has been Swansea who has had the better of this fixture. They're unbeaten in their last 4 meetings with Cardiff. For a score prediction, I feel like there's going to be controversy in this game. I'm just going to edge Swansea for a 1-0. First goal in this game seems like it's going to be absolutely massive. I've just got a bit of a gut feeling about Swansea in this one, but Cardiff very well could pull out something. I'm going to go 1-0 Swansea. Thief is going to agree with me. Get your thoughts in the comments down below. And in our last game to predict, just for a bit of fun really, we've got Bournemouth going up against Southampton in the FA Cup, so feel free to leave your score prediction down below for this one as well. This one won't count towards the prediction league, but yeah, why not at the end of the day. So Bournemouth up against Southampton, interesting one. It's a tough game to predict without seeing the lineups for each side. You know, if they're both going to go full strength, then perhaps quite a few people will be back in Southampton. Having said that though, Bournemouth so far this season have obviously already knocked out Premier League opposition. They got through Burnley in the last round, and something about Bournemouth, they've tended to be better against the better teams in the Championship so far this season, if that makes any sense. You know, they've won now against Swansea, Watford and Norwich, all at least one so far this season, who are the current top 3 in the Championship. Bournemouth tend to drop points in the matches where we least expect them to, really. So yeah, you'd expect them to be motivated for this sort of game, and why not? I'll go for a bit of an upset here, back to the Championship side. I'll go 2-1 Bournemouth, with Thief saying it'll be 1-0 Southampton. But there we have it, guys. Those are my score predictions for what I see happening over this weekend. As always, do get your thoughts in the comments down below. I want to see who you guys are backing. Get yourself onto that prediction leaderboard. As well as that, make sure to leave a like if you went on to enjoy. Please subscribe for a bit of regular championship content. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.